¿Qué pasó, mi gente? Otra vez. It's MarkTep25. I'm making a part 2 to the Zion Williamson thing because I feel some things need to be addressed. And I just, I don't want people thinking I'm some sort of, hating individual, because I'm not. I respect people a lot. Zion Williamson is a fantastic player. I mean, at first I was kind of thinking it was a lot of hype, a player out of high school, and it just seemed, a bit too early to make any sort of assumptions. And of course, this kid was like way too big. I mean, he was obviously kicking the crap out of all these other kids, a man amongst boys. But then he gets into the NCAA, and that's still happening. So maybe this isn't really all that much hype. Maybe this is legit. And he's proving himself. He's proving he can compete. And another thing, a couple of other things that prompted me to do this part 2. It's kind of semi-apologetic and semi just, things that I watched. I watched Dom2K's video on the subject. And, it put things into perspective. And I also retweeted a retweet by B Souls. It was Charles Barkley speaking about the situation. And, I tagged Dom2K and a couple of other YouTubers such as Rusty Buckets, A Funky Diabetic, Mike Rozemba, Legend of Winning. Just, kind of get their takes on it. And, once again, Dom2K, stays true to what he's already said. He's like, nah, I'm just going to have to disagree with Chuck here. The Zion does not owe the NCAA anything. There's a difference between, the love of the game versus squandering away your future for the love of the game. And, that really stuck with me because I'm a musician first. I love sports. This is something I do as a hobby because I really enjoy sports. But, that kind of stuck with me a bit because I am a musician and I always tended to spread myself thin. And I feel that a lot of times, I would say yes, 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 to the point where I was extremely fatigued vocally, and sometimes you just got to know when to look out for yourself, because otherwise you put your own health and safety at risk. So it's not so much that he's really, doing this for the money per se. He's doing it for, himself and his family, because I don't think his Zion Williams' family is, financially stable. If I'm not mistaken, it's kind of a similar situation like with how LeBron's family was. And, he's just doing it to, support that family. And I can relate to that. I want to be able to be at a position where I can make enough money to, support my wife well and to, pay back for my parents and have them live happier lives. So I can relate to that. But yeah, overall, I'm in agreement. And as Dom2K made that video, they actually were considering lowering the age of when a player can enter the NBA. And again, like I stated in my previous video, it was mainly the NBA's fault. Yes, the NCAA was gung-ho about it, but the NCAA was not, the main part to that situation. The NBA was the one that, instituted that. So we can't solely blame the NCAA. However, the NCAA is still a racket. They don't allow you to profit off of your own likeness, which is kind of shitty. I can understand because that blurs the lines between amateur versus professional. And, those are just the NCAA rules. But at some point, I think, yeah, they should just get back to letting players come out of high school and let the players decide if they want to compete in the NCAA and, brush up on their skills if they so choose. And, it's kind of funny. In light of all this, the NCAA actually made some tweets saying like, "Whoa, that was never our deal. That was the NBA's deal. We're totally for, the players having the freedom to choose," which I mean, it is true it was the NBA, but they're still being a little bit dishonest on their end. So, yeah, I just felt that that was kind of stupid. They shouldn't have opened their mouths. Overall, I was glad to kind of get some insight from these other NBA YouTubers. They seem to have a lot more knowledge than I do, so it was kind of cool to get their side of it. And you know, I'm actually very thankful, you know, that they were willing to talk about that, because you know, sometimes I think these people that have these YouTube channels or just, you know, have some sort of celebrity in a sense, they don't seem to give a shit about anybody else. But you know, I again, I would like to thank them for, you know, putting their insight. Rusty Buckets, as a matter of fact, you know, he kind of weighed in on a couple of other things himself, which was interesting. Like, yeah, I will agree to his comment about, you know, Charles being that old man that, you know, yells at the clouds. Because, you know, look, Charles Barkley does make some good points about, you know, money clouding your judgment and, you know, it being about the game. I agree to an extent, but Rusty Buckets brought up a good point where, you know, it's not solely about the money, you know, and you know, if it wasn't about the money, then, you know, why would you play in the NBA? Would you, you know, would you play for an organization that doesn't pay you well? I mean, I know I wouldn't want to work for a job that doesn't pay me well. So I see what Rusty Buckets was kind of going with here. The only thing I wasn't too, like, I didn't agree with the whole idea about if Zion, you know, were to continue to play in the NCAA and win an NCAA title. So, well, it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. It, to an extent, okay, but to another extent, I mean, look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. A lot of people tend to tout his career in college and in the NBA, so maybe having an NCAA championship on Zion's resume wouldn't be such a bad thing, and it would increase his stock in getting drafted. And again, like I stated in the last video, I mean, there's a case to be made that he probably doesn't even need to. He's probably going to be drafted #1 anyway. I mean, that's going to be up to, you know, that's up to speculation, and it's also going to, I guess, present itself when we come to that crossroad. But overall, again, I just wanted to apologize for seeming insensitive. I didn't see it on that, you know, that aspect. You know, I'm really pulling for Zion Williamson. I hope he recovers. The injury wasn't too serious, but even then, you know, it could have been worse. So you got to at least be thankful that these players don't get injured. And I might do another video in the future about, you know, people on Twitter or just in general that, you know, wish harm upon other players, which I think is so shitty. Please don't ever do that. That is such a bad thing to do, guys. You know, I can't wait for Zion Williamson to, you know, compete in the NBA or NCAA if he continues to keep playing. Because it doesn't matter whatever he does, I think he's, you know, he's going to come out on top. The thing that pisses me off, again, about, like, Charles Barkley's comments was his defense of the shoe. I get it. He's under, like, Nike's thumb, and, you know, you have to defend your sponsor. But there comes a point where it's like, nah, man, like, you all have to be better about that. I mean, and you know, Rusty Buckets was like, well, he probably should have, you know, switched out shoes. But at that point, it's like, well, you would expect a shoe to last longer than, you know, well, however long it lasted. I mean, that's the point. They make these products, they should make these products to last. You know, this planned obsolescence era that we're in is kind of, it's kind of bupkis, considering the prices that people have to pay on these shoes. So, I don't know. You know, es un desmadre. But overall, yeah, I just didn't like how he was trying to defend Nike. No, Chuck, at that point, you kind of have to take a stand and be like, you know, and, you know, he did state, well, I don't like to see a player get injured. But at the same time, it's like, nah, dude, you should be telling Nike, bro, you got to step up your game, man. And look, the whole idea about the one and done rule, I'm glad they're looking into it. It shouldn't be a thing. I mean, I understand Charles Barkley, played his career in college. Mike did it. Duncan, a lot of other greats that, became, pretty much Hall of Fame type players did, like, they spent at least 3 years in college. And, some people see it as, like, development. But, some players are just already ready. Dom 2K in his video made a great point. These scouts need to be able to know when someone's ready. But then, I mean, sometimes it's a sure thing, sometimes it's not, because you have, like, Sebastian Telfair, who is a beast in high school. He gets into the NBA, he starts to fade out. So, not everything is as on the surface as it seems. But be that as it may, they should know when they're ready for the big time. The family should, the scouts should, the league should. And again, they should have the freedom to choose that. So I'm glad that the NCAA and the NBA are working together to, like, let this one and done rule be gone, because there's no point in it. There's really isn't. It takes away from the money that could be given to other players who might not, like, be looking towards the NBA or trying to finish their education. And just, in general, like, what if people, of other fields need that money for scholarships? And it seems like I'm beating a dead horse, but I really feel that the universities need to look into being fair across the board. But anyhow, I just want to say it's great that Zion Williamson didn't get horribly injured, and I hope he has a fantastic career in the NBA. Everybody's looking forward to it. So I wish him the best. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Suscríbale a mi canal y hasta la próxima, mi gente. Adiós.